Explosive hook. The biggest mistake of my life. Hello, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Real Stories that Transform Lives. Before we dive into Amelia's heartbreaking yet incredibly inspiring journey, please do me a huge favor. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any story. Today, I bring you a tale that proves how cruelty can become the catalyst for greatness. Imagine waking up one day, and the person who swore eternal love to you says, without a shred of emotion, that you were the biggest mistake of his life. It wasn't a shout of rage, but a cold judgment. A professional verdict pronounced in a luxury penthouse in the heart of New York City. That's where our story begins. The cold verdict. Amelia's invisible prison. The old grandfather clock in the foyer chimed 9 o'clock. Amelia Thorne, 32, sat alone at the majestic dining table, staring at the untouched dinner she had prepared hours ago. The candles had burned halfway down, their flames dancing languidly in the oppressive silence. She had set the table with their best china, delicate plates with gold rims that had been a wedding gift 3 years ago. Fresh flowers rested in a crystal vase, but their sweet fragrance failed to mask the bitterness that flooded the atmosphere. Finally, Marcus Sterling walked through the front door of their dream penthouse, his executive briefcase in one hand and his phone glued to his ear in the other. He barely spared Amelia a glance as he strode past her toward his office. She watched him disappear down the hall, feeling invisible once more. This had become their routine. She waited, she hoped, and eventually ate alone while he worked late into the night. Amelia slowly rose, her heart heavy with the umpteenth disappointment. She walked to the office and knocked gently before opening the door. Marcus sat behind his mahogany desk, frantically typing on his laptop. The blue light from the screen reflected on his face, making him seem even more distant than usual. "Marcus, we need to talk," Amelia said softly, struggling to maintain her composure. He didn't look up from his work. "Can't it wait? I'm closing a huge deal tomorrow morning." "No, it cannot wait," Amelia countered, her voice gaining firmness. "It's waited long enough. We have waited long enough." Marcus sighed with obvious irritation and finally lifted his eyes to meet hers. "What is it, Amelia? What is so urgent that it can't wait until tomorrow?" Amelia felt her chest tighten. She had rehearsed this conversation 100 times in her mind, but now that the moment arrived, the words caught in her throat. She took a deep breath and moved closer to his desk. "When did we stop being a couple?" she asked. "When did you stop seeing me as your wife and start treating me like just another piece of furniture in this apartment?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest. His expression remained cold and unreadable. "Amelia, I work hard to maintain this lifestyle for us. You live in a beautiful home. You have everything you could want. What more do you expect from me?" "I expect you to be present in our marriage," Amelia said, her voice cracking slightly. "I don't want expensive things or fancy dinners. I want my husband to come home and talk to me. I want to feel like I matter to you." Marcus rubbed his temples, as if she were causing him a headache. "You're exaggerating. This is how marriages work when you're building an empire. Didn't you know what you were getting into marrying me?" "No." Amelia shook her head, tears starting to well up. "I married a man who loved me, who made me feel special. The man I fell in love with used to bring me flowers for no reason. He laughed with me, and we made plans for our future together. Where did that man go?" Marcus stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the wooden floor. He clenched his jaw, and for the first time in months, he looked directly at her with something more than indifference. But what she saw in his eyes was not love or concern. It was frustration and something far colder. "You want to know the truth?" Marcus said, his voice low and harsh. "Fine. The truth is, marrying you was a mistake. You were the biggest mistake of my life." The words hit Amelia like a physical blow. She felt the air leave her lungs as she stared at him in shock. The room seemed to spin, and she clutched the edge of the desk to steady herself. "What did you just say?" she whispered, hoping she had misheard. "You heard me," Marcus continued, his tone unwavering. "I got carried away by romance and the idea of having a wife, but the reality is you hold me back. You demand attention and time that I don't have. You are a liability I can no longer afford." Amelia felt warm tears run down her face, but she refused to look away. She wanted him to see the pain he was causing, to understand the weight of the words he had just uttered. But Marcus's expression remained unreadable, as cold and distant as ever. "If you truly feel that way," Amelia said, her voice trembling but determined, "then I'm going to make it easy for you. I'm leaving." She turned and walked out of the office, her legs shaking. Behind her, she heard Marcus call her name once, but she didn't stop. She went straight to their bedroom and pulled a suitcase from the closet. Her hands trembled as she threw clothes inside, not caring what she grabbed or how she folded it. Amelia looked around the room, which once felt like a sanctuary. The luxurious silk bedding, the closet full of designer clothes, the view of the city skyline through the picture windows. None of it mattered anymore. This beautiful prison had ceased to be a home the moment Marcus stopped loving her. If he ever truly did. She zipped the suitcase and took a last look at the framed photo on her bedside table. It was from their wedding. They both looked so happy, so hopeful for the future. Amelia took the frame and looked at the image of her younger self, a woman who had no idea what was coming. She placed it face down on the table and walked out of the room. Marcus stood in the hallway when she appeared with her suitcase. For a moment, neither spoke. Amelia saw something flicker across his face, perhaps regret or surprise, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Amelia, where will you go?" he asked, his voice lacking true concern. "Anywhere but here," she replied simply. "A place where I am not a mistake." She walked past him toward the front door, her head held high despite the tears still streaming down her cheeks. As she reached the knob, Marcus spoke again. "You'll regret this. You're giving up everything." Amelia stopped and turned to face him one last time. "No, Marcus. I am finally choosing myself. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner." She opened the door and walked out into the hall, pulling her suitcase behind her. The sound of the door closing echoed in the empty hallway. Amelia stood there for a moment, taking deep breaths and trying to process what had just happened. Her entire life had changed in the span of a single conversation. She pulled out her phone and called the only person she knew would answer at that hour. Sophia, her best friend from college. "Amelia, is everything okay?" Sophia asked, worry evident in her voice. "No," Amelia admitted, her voice breaking. "Nothing is okay. Can I stay with you tonight? I just left Marcus." "Of course you can," Sophia said immediately. "Come right now. I'll put the kettle on." Amelia took the elevator to the lobby and stepped out into the cool night air. The city was still alive with people and traffic, completely oblivious to the personal earthquake that had just shaken her world. She flagged a taxi and gave the driver Sophia's address across town. As the car pulled away from the imposing glass and steel building, Amelia looked back one last time. Somewhere in that penthouse, Marcus was probably already back at his desk, focused on his business and his empire. The realization that he would barely miss her presence hurt more than anything else. But as the taxi merged into traffic and the building disappeared from view, Amelia felt something unexpected stir in her chest alongside the pain. It was small and fragile, but it was there. Hope. For the first time in years, she had chosen herself. She had abandoned a life that was slowly killing her spirit. The road ahead was uncertain and terrifying, but it was hers to walk. Amelia wiped the tears from her cheeks and watched the city lights flash by. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, or how she would rebuild her life from this moment. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was not a mistake. She never had been. And she would prove it to herself, even if Marcus never came to understand what he had lost. Have you ever had to let go of something you loved in order to save yourself? Tell us your experience in the comments. If this story touches your soul, give this video a thumbs up. The architect of her own resurrection. Amelia woke up on Sophia's sofa, with sunlight streaming through the curtains. For a brief moment, she forgot where she was and why. Then, reality crashed down on her like a wave. She sat up slowly, her body aching from a night of restless sleep. Sophia appeared in the doorway with 2 mugs of coffee, her expression full of sympathy and concern. "Good morning," Sophia said softly, handing her one of the mugs. "How are you feeling?" "Like my whole life just fell apart." Sophia sat beside her and put a comforting arm around her shoulders. "I know it feels that way right now, but I promise you, this is not the end. This is actually the beginning of something much better." Amelia wanted to believe her friend, but the pain was still too raw. She spent the next few days in a fog, barely eating or talking. Sophia gave her space while simultaneously ensuring she was never truly alone. On the 4th day, Sophia sat across from Amelia at the kitchen table, a determined look on her face. "Enough grieving," Sophia announced firmly. "I love you, and I've let you process this heartbreak, but now it's time to start moving forward. You are talented, brilliant, and capable. Marcus may not have seen your worth, but the rest of the world will." Amelia looked at her friend with weary eyes. "What am I supposed to do? I gave up everything. I don't have a job or a place to live." "Nonsense. You have your skills," Sophia reminded her. "You are an incredible interior designer. Before you married Marcus, you were making a name for yourself. Remember all those projects you worked on? The boutique hotel renovation? The restaurant redesign that won that award?" Amelia had almost forgotten her career. She had given it up when Marcus convinced her he wanted a wife focused on their home and social life. At the time, it had felt romantic, like he wanted to take care of her. Now, she realized it was just another way to control her and make her dependent on him. "I've been out of the industry for 3 years," Amelia said quietly. "No one will remember me." "I'll remind them," Sophia said with a smile. "I still have contacts from my marketing days. Let me make some calls. I bet we can get you some freelance work to start." Over the next few weeks, Amelia slowly began to regain her confidence. Sophia kept her word and connected her with several small projects. Amelia threw herself into the work, grateful for the distraction and the opportunity to use her creative skills again. She rented a small studio apartment in a modest neighborhood in Greenwich Village. Nothing like the luxurious penthouse she had shared with Marcus, but it felt more like a home than that place ever did. Her first big break came when she was hired to redesign a popular coffee shop in the art district. The owner, a woman named Patricia, gave Amelia complete creative freedom. Amelia poured her heart into the project, selecting warm colors, comfortable furniture, and unique lighting fixtures that created a cozy atmosphere. When the redesign was complete, the coffee shop became an instant success. Customers loved the new space, and photos of the interior began popping up on social media. Patricia was thrilled with the results and recommended Amelia to other business owners in the area. Soon, Amelia had more work than she could handle. She was designing boutiques, restaurants, office spaces, and even a small art gallery. Each project allowed her to express herself in ways she never could during her marriage. She was no longer invisible or insignificant. Her work spoke for itself, and people valued her vision. 6 months after leaving Marcus, Amelia attended a networking event for design professionals and potential clients. She wore a simple navy dress and had pulled her hair back into an elegant bun. As she walked through the gallery space where the event was held, she felt genuinely happy for the first time in years. She was proud of what she had accomplished on her own. She was examining a modern sculpture when a deep voice spoke from behind her. "An interesting piece, isn't it? I can't decide if I love it or hate it." Amelia turned and found herself looking at a tall man with kind brown eyes and an easy smile. He wore a casual blazer over a button-down shirt, and there was an accessible quality about him that immediately put her at ease. "I think that's the point of modern art," Amelia replied with a smile. "It's supposed to make you feel something, even if that something is confusion." The man laughed warmly. "That's a good point. I'm Adrian Hayes, by the way. I'm an architect." Amelia Vargas, interior designer. They shook hands, and Amelia felt a small spark of connection. Adrian had a refreshing directness. For the next hour, they talked about design, philosophy, favorite projects, and their shared love for creating beautiful spaces. Adrian listened intently when Amelia spoke, asking thoughtful questions and genuinely engaging with her ideas. It was such a stark contrast to the conversations she used to have with Marcus, where she always felt like she was interrupting something more important. "I've actually seen some of your recent work," Adrian admitted. "The coffee shop in Greenwich Village? That was you, right? I was so impressed with how you transformed that space. It feels warm and inviting, while still being modern." Amelia felt her cheeks flush with pride. "Thank you. That project was special to me." "Would you be interested in collaborating on something?" Adrian asked. "I'm working on a residential development, and we're looking for an interior designer to handle the model units. I think your aesthetic would be perfect." Amelia's heart quickened with excitement. This was exactly the kind of opportunity she had been waiting for. "I would love to discuss it further." They exchanged contact information, and Adrian promised to send her the project details. As the evening drew to a close, Amelia felt lighter than she had in months. She had made a genuine connection with someone who respected her work and saw her as an equal professional. CTAs. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the dramatic confrontation. Like and share this video. The confrontation. The echo of a mistake. Over the next few weeks, Amelia and Adrian worked closely together on the residential project. They met regularly to discuss design concepts, review floor plans, and coordinate their visions for the spaces. Amelia found herself eagerly looking forward to their meetings. Adrian was collaborative and creative. He was always open to her suggestions and willing to adapt his architectural plans to accommodate her interior designs. But it was more than just professional respect. Adrian made her laugh. He brought her coffee during long planning sessions and remembered small details she mentioned in passing. When Amelia mentioned a vintage furniture store she loved, he surprised her by taking her there one Saturday afternoon to look for pieces for the model units. As they browsed mid-century chairs and antique lamps, Amelia realized she was having fun in a way she hadn't experienced in years. One evening, after a particularly productive work session, Adrian suggested dinner at a nearby restaurant. Amelia hesitated for a moment, wondering if this crossed the line from professional to personal. But then she reminded herself she was allowed to have dinner with a friend and colleague. She was no longer trapped in a marriage where every action was scrutinized. The restaurant was cozy and intimate. Adrian ordered a bottle of wine, and they talked about everything except work. He told her about growing up in a small coastal town, his decision to study architecture, and his dream of designing sustainable housing. Amelia found herself opening up about her own past, carefully editing the painful details of her marriage. "Can I ask you something personal?" Adrian said after their main courses arrived. "You don't have to answer if you're not comfortable." Amelia nodded, curious about what he wanted to know. "You seem like someone who's been through something difficult recently," Adrian observed softly. "I don't mean to pry, but I get the sense there's a story behind your incredible comeback to the design world." Amelia took a sip of wine, considering how much to share. There was something about Adrian's genuine concern that made her want to be honest. "I was married," she began slowly, "to someone who made me feel small and insignificant. He convinced me my career didn't matter and that I should focus on supporting his success. For 3 years, I lost myself trying to be the perfect wife for someone who never truly appreciated me. When he told me I was the biggest mistake of his life, I finally found the courage to leave." Adrian's expression turned serious, and Amelia saw anger flicker in his eyes. "He told you that? What kind of person says something so cruel to someone they supposedly loved?" "Someone who never truly loved me," Amelia replied quietly. "It took me a long time to understand that it wasn't my fault. I wasn't the mistake. The mistake was staying with someone who couldn't see my worth." Adrian leaned across the table and gently placed his hand over hers. "For the record, I think he was a complete fool. You are talented, brilliant, and amazing at what you do. Anyone who couldn't see that doesn't deserve you." Amelia felt tears prick her eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude and relief. For so long, she had internalized Marcus's words and believed she was lacking. But here was someone who saw her clearly and appreciated everything she had to offer. "Thank you," she whispered. "That means more to me than you know. Do you think Marcus deserved a second chance after seeing Amelia's success, or was it already too late?" Leave us your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to share this story with someone who needs a reminder of their own worth. The gala return. You were the mistake, not me. As the weeks turned into months, Amelia and Adrian grew closer. Their professional relationship evolved into a genuine friendship, and then into something that felt like the beginning of a romance. Adrian never pressured her or demanded her time. He simply showed up consistently, proving through his actions that he valued her presence in his life. Meanwhile, Marcus's life followed a very different trajectory. After Amelia left, he convinced himself he was better off without her. He dove deeper into his work, closing deals and expanding his real estate empire. But the penthouse felt emptier than ever. The silence he once valued now felt suffocating. He started seeing Amelia's work appear in design magazines and industry publications. Her name was mentioned in articles about rising stars in interior design. He saw photographs of spaces she had created, each one showcasing her incredible eye for detail and her ability to make environments feel beautiful and welcoming. Something twisted in his chest every time he saw her name. Then, one day, Marcus's partner invited him to tour a new residential development that was generating buzz in the real estate community. Marcus agreed, always interested in seeing what the competition was doing. When they arrived at the property, he was immediately impressed by the thoughtful architecture and quality of construction. "Wait until you see the model units," his partner said enthusiastically. "The interior design is absolutely stunning. It's what's really selling this place." They walked into the first model unit, and Marcus stopped dead in his tracks. He recognized Amelia's work instantly. The color palette, the furniture selection, the way she had layered textures and patterns to create depth and warmth. This was unmistakably her vision. "Who did the interiors?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. "A designer named Amelia Vargas," his partner replied. "Apparently she's one of the hottest names in the industry right now. Everyone wants to work with her." Marcus walked through the space in a daze, seeing Amelia's talent on full display. How had he not noticed this about her when they were married? How had he dismissed her skills and made her feel that her career didn't matter? The realization of what he had lost hit him like a freight train. 3 months later, Amelia received an invitation to the annual Design Excellence Awards Gala, one of the industry's most prestigious events. She had been nominated for her work on Adrian's residential development, and she could barely believe it. Sophia helped her choose a stunning emerald green gown that made her feel elegant and confident. Adrian offered to be her date for the night, and Amelia accepted with a warm "ah." As they buffeted at the hotel ballroom, Amelia felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was a huge moment for her career, and she wanted to savor every second. What Amelia didn't know was that Marcus was also at the event. His company was a major sponsor, meaning he had a prominent table near the front of the room. When he walked in and surveyed the crowd, his eyes landed on Amelia almost immediately. She looked absolutely radiant in her green dress, her hair styled in soft waves that framed her face. But what made his stomach clench was the man sitting beside her, clearly attentive and affectionate. Marcus felt a surge of emotions he couldn't quite name: jealousy, regret, anger, longing. He watched as Amelia laughed at something Adrian said. Her entire face lit up with genuine happiness. He had never made her look like that. He tried to concentrate on the awards presentation, but his attention kept drifting back to Amelia. When her category was announced, Marcus found himself holding his breath. The presenter opened the envelope and read the winner's name: Amelia Vargas, for her exceptional interior design work on the Hayes Ribera residential development. The ballroom erupted in applause. Amelia rose, tears in her eyes, clearly shocked and overwhelmed. Adrian stood with her, giving her a congratulatory hug before she headed to the stage. Marcus watched her accept the award, give an eloquent speech, and pose for photographs. She was poised, professional, and utterly captivating. As the night continued, Marcus found himself unable to stay put. He needed to talk to Amelia, to tell her he was wrong about everything. He waited until she walked out of the ballroom, presumably heading to the restroom or to take a break from the crowd. He followed her into the elegant hallway. "Amelia!" he called out. She turned, and the smile immediately vanished from her face when she saw him. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" "My company is a sponsor," he explained, taking a few steps closer. "But that doesn't matter. I needed to see you, to talk to you. Congratulations on your award. You deserve it." Amelia crossed her arms defensively over her chest. "Thank you. If that's all you wanted to say, I should get back to my table." "Wait," Marcus said urgently. "Please, just give me a few minutes. I've been trying to figure out how to contact you for months." "Why would you want to contact me?" Amelia asked coldly. "You made it very clear that I was a mistake in your life." Marcus winced as his own words were thrown back at him. "I was wrong. I was so incredibly wrong, Amelia. I've spent every day since you left regretting what I said and how I treated you. I didn't appreciate what I had until it was gone." Amelia shook her head in disbelief. "You can't be serious right now. Do you have any idea how much that hurt me? How many nights I cried myself to sleep feeling worthless because of the things you said and did?" "I know," Marcus said, his voice breaking, "and I'll never forgive myself. But I'm asking you to forgive me. I want another chance. I want to prove to you that I can be the husband you deserved all along." Before Amelia could answer, Adrian appeared in the hallway. He immediately assessed the situation, noticing Amelia's uncomfortable body language and Marcus's intense expression. "Amelia, is everything all right?" Adrian asked, positioning himself protectively beside her. Marcus's jaw tightened as he looked at the other man. "This is a private conversation." "Not if Amelia doesn't want it to be," Adrian responded calmly. Amelia took a deep breath, looking between the two men. "Adrian, this is Marcus, my ex-husband. Marcus, this is Adrian Hayes. We work together." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "That's none of your business," Amelia said firmly. "You lost the right to ask questions about my personal life when you threw me away like I meant nothing." Marcus stepped forward, desperation clear in his expression. "Amelia, please, I love you. I should have said it more when we were together. I should have shown it every day. But I'm saying it now. I love you, and I can't stand the idea of you being with someone else." Adrian looked at Amelia with concern. "Do you want me to give you some privacy?" Amelia considered it for a moment. Then she shook her head. "No, stay. Marcus needs to hear this, and I want you to be here." She turned to face Marcus directly, her voice firm and strong. "For 3 years, I waited for you to love me the way I deserved. I made excuses for your coldness and your absence. I convinced myself that if I was just more patient, more understanding, more perfect, you would finally see me. But you never did. And when I finally had the courage to ask for what I needed, you told me I was your biggest mistake." Tears were streaming down Amelia's face now, but her voice never faltered. "Do you know what that did to me? Do you have any idea how long it took me to believe that I actually wasn't a mistake? That I was worthy of love, respect, and a partner?" Marcus reached out to touch her arm, but Amelia took a step back. "I'm not finished. You don't get to show up here tonight, after I've finally rebuilt my life, and expect me to just fall back into your arms. Love isn't just a word you say when you realize you've lost something valuable. Love is showing up every day. Love is paying attention. Love is making someone feel important." She looked at Adrian, whose eyes were filled with understanding and support. Then she looked back at Marcus. "You taught me how love is not supposed to feel, and now I'm learning how it should feel. So no, Marcus, I don't forgive you, and I don't want another chance with you." Marcus's face crumpled. "Amelia, please, I'll do anything. I'll change, I'll be different. You should have changed when I was begging you," Amelia said sadly. "You should have been different when I was still your wife, but you weren't, and now it's too late. I hope you learned from this. I hope your next relationship is different, but I'm not going to sacrifice my peace and my happiness to teach you how to be a better person." She took Adrian's hand and looked at him. "Can we go back inside? I want to celebrate this night with people who genuinely care about me." Adrian nodded, squeezing her hand gently. They started to walk past Marcus, but he called out one last time. "I see it now," Marcus said, his voice hollow. "I see everything I was too blind to notice before. You were never the mistake, Amelia. I was." Amelia stopped and looked over her shoulder. "Yes, you were, but that was your lesson to learn, not mine to keep teaching you." She walked back into the ballroom with Adrian at her side, leaving Marcus alone in the hallway with the weight of his regrets. Inside, the celebration continued. Adrian led her to a quiet corner and wrapped his arms around her in a comforting embrace. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Amelia nodded against his chest. "I'm better than okay. I finally said everything I needed to say. I finally stood up for myself in a way I never could when we were married." Adrian pulled back slightly to look at her face. "I'm incredibly proud of you, and I know this is probably not the best time, but I need you to know something." Amelia looked at him with curiosity. "What is it?" "I'm falling in love with you," Adrian admitted. "I have been for months, and I understand if you're not ready for that, or if you need more time to heal. But after watching you face your ex-husband with such strength and dignity, I couldn't keep it in anymore. You are extraordinary, Amelia, and it would be an honor if you would let me show you every day what it feels like to be truly loved." Amelia felt new tears well up in her eyes, but these were tears of joy. "I'm falling in love with you too. You make me feel seen and valued in ways I never thought possible." Adrian smiled and gently wiped the tears from her cheeks. "Then let's start fresh. No more looking back at what was. Only looking forward to what can be." Amelia nodded, feeling a sense of peace and certainty wash over her. I'd really like that. As they walked back to their table, hand in hand, Amelia caught one last glimpse of Marcus leaving the ballroom. His shoulders were slumped, and he looked utterly defeated. A small part of her felt pity for him, but a larger part felt free. She was no longer chained to his opinion, or defined by his inability to love her properly. 6 months later, Amelia and Adrian stood together at the grand opening of their collaborative design showroom. It was a space where Adrian's architectural models and Amelia's interior design concepts were displayed side by side, showcasing to potential clients how their combined talents could create truly special spaces. Sophia was there, along with dozens of clients, colleagues, and friends who had supported Amelia on her journey. As Amelia looked around the room, seeing the life she had built, she felt an overwhelming gratitude. She had gone from feeling like a mistake to knowing she was a masterpiece. She had transformed her pain into purpose and her heartbreak into healing. Marcus had taught her what she didn't want in a relationship. Adrian was teaching her what she did deserve. And most importantly, she had taught herself that her worth never depended on someone else's ability to see it. The biggest mistake was never Amelia. The biggest mistake was anyone who didn't recognize how extraordinary she truly was. And standing in her showroom, surrounded by love and success, Amelia knew she would never forget that truth again. Her story wasn't about a woman broken by cruel words. It was about a woman who rebuilt herself into something even stronger and more beautiful than before. And that, my friends, is a story worth celebrating. What was the most powerful moment of the confrontation between Amelia and Marcus? Share your final reflections on Amelia's journey to self-worth. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to click Yekpua. Share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more meaningful stories. An open ending. The choice Amelia faced. This section starts immediately after the tense confrontation between Amelia, Marcus, and Adrian at the gala hallway. Amelia returned to the ballroom with Adrian, leaving Marcus alone in the hallway with his gnawing regret. She tried to focus on the awards ceremony and Adrian's warm smile, but she could feel her hands still trembling from the confrontation. Adrian led her to a quiet corner of the room and wrapped his arms around her. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Amelia nodded. "I'm better than okay. I finally said everything I needed to say. I stood up for myself." "I am so proud of you," Adrian said, pulling her back to look into her eyes. "And I know this is probably not the best time, but I need you to know this. I'm falling in love with you, Amelia. I have been for months. I understand if you're not ready. But after watching you face your ex-husband with such strength and dignity, I couldn't keep it in any longer. You are extraordinary, and I want to be with you, if you'll let me." Amelia's eyes welled up, but not with sadness. I'm falling in love with you too. You make me feel seen and valued in ways I never thought possible." Adrian smiled, wiping the tears from her cheek. "Then let's start fresh. No more looking back at what was, only looking forward to what can be." They held hands and returned to the table. That night, Amelia won the award, and she felt like the happiest woman in the world, beside the man who saw her true worth. The uncertain morning. A silent letter. The next morning, as Amelia woke up in her studio apartment, she found a plain white, unsealed envelope tucked under the door. Inside was a simple, unadorned card, with only a handwritten note in the script she instantly recognized. Marcus. "Amelia, I haven't slept since last night. I drove to the apartment we shared, and then I drove here. I spent the entire night replaying every moment. You were right. You were never the mistake. I was. I won't apologize or beg you to come back here. I know those words are meaningless now. I only want you to know that, for the first time in my life, I understand what I lost. I lost the woman who built my empire with her intellect and her love. I lost the person capable of changing the world, while I was too busy trying to control it. I will never bother you again, unless you seek me out. But I will not vanish. I will change. I will become the man you deserved. Not for you, but for myself. And if, a year from now, 2 years from now, you still haven't found the peace you deserve, and if you are curious to see what that man looks like, I will be there. The choice is yours, always yours. Marcus, the undecided future. Amelia's new path. Amelia read the letter over and over, feeling her heart clench not with pain, but with confusion. This was not the man she once knew. There was no arrogance, no demand, only the painful acknowledgement of his fault. At the same time, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Adrian. "Good morning, award winner. I'm downstairs with coffee and croissants. Can we talk about designing our showroom?" Amelia looked out the window, where Adrian was smiling, his eyes filled with respect and an unconditional kind of love. She looked down at Marcus's letter, feeling the weight of a promise of change, of an old, forgotten love that now wanted to be salvaged. Amelia had won her victory. She had the freedom and respect she craved. Now she had to make the hardest choice. Should she move forward on the fresh, healthy path with Adrian, who loved the woman she is now? Or should she wait, even subconsciously, to see if Marcus could truly change to become the man she once loved? She folded the letter, placed it in her desk drawer, right next to the blueprint for their new showroom design. Amelia smiled, locked her door, and walked downstairs to meet Adrian. She chose the present. She chose her career. She chose respect. But as she walked away, a question lingered in the crisp New York morning air. Would Amelia ever open that drawer again to check on Marcus's promise of change? Open-ending question for the audience. If you were Amelia, what would you do with Marcus's letter? Accept the change. Keep the letter and monitor Marcus's progress. Burn the past, throw the letter away, and focus entirely on the relationship with Adrian. Comment your choice and why.